The smell of turkey and tension filled the air as I walked into my mother-in-law's house that Thanksgiving evening. You know that feeling when you can sense something's off before anyone even speaks? That was the vibe hitting me the moment I stepped through the door. My wife had been unusually quiet during the drive over, which should have been my first red flag. Usually she'd be chattering about who would be there, what gossip she'd heard from her family, the usual pre-gathering commentary. Instead, she just stared out the passenger window with this weird little smirk on her face. The dining room was packed with the usual suspects, her parents, her divorced sister, her brother and his wife, plus a handful of cousins and their kids running around. Everyone was already seated when we arrived, which meant we were the center of attention as we found our spots at the overcrowded table. Dinner conversation started normal enough. Football scores, work updates, the kids' school activities. I was actually starting to relax, thinking maybe I'd misread the atmosphere earlier. That's when my wife decided to detonate her little bomb. "You know what I'm thankful for this year?" she announced loudly, cutting through a conversation about Black Friday shopping plans. The entire table went quiet, all eyes turning to her expectant face. I had a bad feeling about where this was heading, but I just took another bite of stuffing and waited. "I'm thankful for finally being honest about my marriage," she continued, her voice getting louder and more dramatic. "I mean, why should I keep pretending everything's perfect when it's not?" Her mother shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "Honey, maybe this isn't the time." But my wife was just getting started. She turned to look directly at me, her eyes gleaming with something that looked almost like excitement. "I'm thankful that I can finally say what everyone's been thinking. That my husband here is a complete disappointment in every way. Bedroom and bank account." The silence that followed was deafening. Even the kids stopped talking. I could feel every pair of eyes at that table boring into me, waiting for my reaction. Some looked shocked, others embarrassed. A few seemed almost hungry for drama. I set down my fork calmly, wiped my mouth with my napkin, and looked right back at her. "Fair assessment," I said with a slight nod. The confusion on her face was priceless. This clearly wasn't the reaction she'd been expecting. She'd probably imagined me getting angry, defensive, maybe storming out like some wounded animal. Instead, I just agreed with her. What?" she stammered. "You heard me. Fair assessment." I leaned back in my chair slightly. "If that's how you see things, then that's how you see things." Her brother cleared his throat awkwardly. "Maybe we should just change the subject?" But her divorced sister, the one who'd been through a messy split 2 years earlier, had other ideas. She'd been watching this whole exchange with increasing interest, and now she leaned forward with a sly smile. "Well, if you don't want him," she said to my wife, "I'll take him. He sounds way better than my ex who actually was useless. At least your husband shows up and pays his share of the bills." The look of pure shock that crossed my wife's face was something I'll never forget. Her mouth actually fell open. This was definitely not part of whatever script she'd been playing out in her head. "Excuse me," my wife snapped at her sister. "You heard me. You just announced to everyone that you don't appreciate what you have. I'm just saying I wouldn't mind having a man who's reliable and present instead of the deadbeat I was married to." The tension in the room cranked up about 10 notches. My wife's face was turning red. Her parents looked mortified, and I could see her brother trying to signal his wife to do something, anything, to defuse the situation. I stood up slowly, placing my napkin on the table. "Well, this has been enlightening," I said, my voice perfectly calm. "Thanks for dinner. It was educational." "Where are you going?" my wife demanded, her voice getting shrill. "Home. You ladies can figure out the details without me." As I walked toward the door, I could hear my wife starting to raise her voice at her sister, something about boundaries and respect. Her sister fired right back about honesty and knowing what you have before you lose it. The argument escalated quickly, with other family members jumping in to take sides. I grabbed my jacket from the front closet while the chaos erupted behind me. Voices were getting louder, accusations were flying, and I heard something that sounded like a chair being pushed back forcefully. I walked out to my car with the sound of a full family meltdown echoing from inside the house. As I started the engine, I could see figures moving around frantically through the front window. My wife's voice was the loudest of all, though I couldn't make out the exact words anymore. The drive home was peaceful. 20 minutes of quiet road, no drama, no accusations, no performance. Just me, the radio playing some classic rock, and the realization that I'd just watched my wife blow up her own family dinner for reasons I was only beginning to understand. What I didn't know was that this wasn't really about my performance in any aspect of our marriage. This felt calculated, planned, like she'd been building up to this moment for a while. The question was why, and more importantly, what was she planning to do next? The 20-minute drive home gave me plenty of time to think. No angry music, no aggressive driving, just steady cruise control and clear thinking. Funny how peaceful it feels when you finally stop pretending everything's fine. I pulled into our driveway expecting an empty house, figuring she'd stay behind to handle the family drama she'd created. But her car was already there. She must have left right after I did, probably speeding the whole way home. I found her pacing in the living room like a caged animal, still in her Thanksgiving dress, but with her heels kicked off in the middle of the floor. The moment I walked in, she whirled around to face me. "What was that supposed to mean?" she demanded. I hung up my jacket calmly. What's supposed to mean? Don't play dumb with me. That whole fair assessment thing. You made me look like an idiot in front of my entire family. I actually laughed. I made you look like an idiot? Let me think about this. You stood up at Thanksgiving dinner and announced to everyone that your husband is a disappointment, in bed and broke. But somehow I'm the one who made you look bad. Her face flushed red. It was just, I didn't mean for it to come out like that. I was just being honest about our problems. No, you were putting on a show. And when your sister called your bluff, you realized how it actually sounded to everyone else. She started pacing again, running her hands through her hair. My sister was completely out of line. She had no right to say what she said. Actually, she had every right. You put our marriage on the table for public discussion. She just responded to your invitation. That's not what I was doing. I sat down on the couch and looked at her steadily. Then what exactly were you doing? Because from where I was sitting, it looked like you were trying to humiliate me in front of your family. Mission accomplished, by the way. She stopped pacing and tried to switch tactics. Her voice got softer, almost pleading. Look, I know it came out wrong. I've just been frustrated lately, and I thought maybe if we could talk about our issues openly. At Thanksgiving dinner? In front of your parents and the kids? Okay, maybe the timing wasn't great. But we do have problems, and we never talk about them. I leaned back and studied her face. What problems are we talking about specifically? She hesitated, like she wasn't expecting me to actually engage with the conversation. Well, we barely talk anymore. We're like roommates. And the intimacy issues. What intimacy issues? Be specific. Another hesitation. She was scrambling now, trying to justify her public outburst with actual complaints. We don't. I mean, it's not like it used to be. When did you last try to initiate anything? Silence. When did you last suggest we do something together? Go out, stay in, have an actual conversation about something other than bills or schedules. More silence. Here's what I think really happened tonight, I said, keeping my voice level. You've been building up some narrative in your head about our marriage, and tonight you decided to test it out on an audience. You wanted to see how it would play, get some validation for whatever you're planning next. Her eyes widened slightly. That's ridiculous. Is it? Because the woman I married wouldn't have ambushed me like that. She would have talked to me first, privately, like an adult. Tonight felt like a performance. She tried tears next. I just feel so disconnected from you. I don't know how to get through to you anymore. Disconnected? I work, I pay my share of everything. I show up when I'm supposed to. What exactly am I not giving you that you need? It's not about money or showing up. It's about emotional connection. Okay, when's the last time you asked me about my day? My work? What I'm thinking about? When's the last time you seemed genuinely interested in having a conversation that wasn't about something you needed me to do or fix or pay for? She opened and closed her mouth like she was trying to find an answer that didn't exist. I've been watching this pattern for months, I continued. You treat me like a business partner when it's convenient, and a disappointment when you need someone to blame for whatever's missing in your life. Tonight you just made it public. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been talking to me about your concerns before announcing them to your family. Fair would have been treating me with basic respect in front of people who are supposed to care about both of us. She sat down heavily in the chair across from me, and I could see her trying to figure out her next move. The tears weren't working, the justifications weren't working, and I wasn't getting angry like she'd probably expected. So what happens now? She asked quietly. Now you sleep in the guest room while I figure out what I want to do next. What you want to do? What's that supposed to mean? I stood up and headed toward the stairs. It means I'm done pretending this is working when it's clearly not. You made that pretty obvious tonight. You can't just make decisions like that without talking to me. I paused at the bottom of the stairs. Like you talked to me before deciding to air our private business at Thanksgiving dinner. She didn't have an answer for that. The guest room has clean sheets, I said. I'll see you in the morning. As I climbed the stairs, I could hear her starting to cry again. But this time it sounded different. Less manipulative, more like genuine panic. Like she was finally realizing that her little performance had consequences she hadn't thought through. I closed the bedroom door behind me and actually felt calm for the first time in months. Sometimes you don't realize how much energy you've been spending on maintaining a facade until you finally stop pretending. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of bacon and coffee. My wife was already up, making what looked like a full breakfast spread. She'd changed into one of those outfits she used to wear when we first started dating, the kind that said she was trying way too hard. "Morning," she said with forced brightness when I came downstairs. "I made your favorite breakfast." I poured myself coffee and sat down at the kitchen table. The bacon was perfectly crispy, eggs over easy, fresh orange juice. The works. It would have been touching if it wasn't so obviously calculated. "This is nice," I said neutrally. She sat across from me with her own plate, but I noticed she wasn't actually eating much, just pushing food around while watching my face for reactions. "I was thinking," she started carefully, "maybe we could drive up to that little bed and breakfast in the mountains this weekend. You know, the one we went to for our second anniversary." "Why?" The question caught her off guard. "Why?" Because we need to reconnect. Work on us. Last night you told your entire family that I was a disappointment in every way. Today you want to go on a romantic weekend. Help me understand the logic here." Her face tightened. "I already explained that last night came out wrong. I was just frustrated and it didn't sound the way I meant it." "How did you mean it to sound?" Another pause. She was really struggling with this. "I meant that we have some areas we could improve on. As a couple." I took a sip of coffee. "And you thought Thanksgiving dinner was the right venue for couples feedback? Fine. I was wrong about the timing. But my feelings about our relationship are still valid." "Which feelings specifically?" She set down her fork with a little more force than necessary. "Why are you being so difficult about this?" "I'm trying to fix things." "I'm not being difficult. I'm asking you to explain what you actually want to fix, since yesterday you seemed pretty clear that the problem was me." The weekend getaway idea died pretty quickly after that. By lunch, she'd moved on to sulking, which honestly was more familiar territory. She spent the afternoon doing laundry with aggressive efficiency, slamming the washer lid and folding clothes like they'd personally offended her. Around dinner time, she tried a different approach. I was reading in the living room when she came in wearing a black dress I hadn't seen in months. "I thought we could order from that Italian place you like," she said, sitting down next to me on the couch. Close enough that I could smell her perfume. "I already ate." "What?" "When?" "Made a sandwich around 5. She looked confused, like the idea that I might eat without consulting her was foreign. "Well, I haven't eaten yet. Order whatever you want." She scooted closer. "Or we could cook together, like we used to." I looked up from my book. "When did we used to cook together?" "We. Remember when we made that pasta dish for your birthday last year?" "You mean when you asked me to help you make dinner because your sister was coming over and you wanted to impress her with your cooking skills?" Her face fell. "You remember everything so negatively." "I remember things the way they happened." She tried physical contact next, putting her hand on my arm. "I miss us. The way we used to be." "When was that exactly?" "Because I'm trying to remember the last time you seemed happy to see me when I came home from work, or asked about my day because you actually wanted to know, not because you were building up to asking me to do something." She pulled her hand back. "I do care about your day. Yesterday was Tuesday. What happened at my work on Tuesday?" Silence. Monday. More silence. "What project am I working on right now?" She looked down at her hands. "You don't tell me about work stuff. Because every time I start to, you change the subject or start talking about something else. You've trained me not to bother." By Sunday, the attempts at seduction and reconciliation had turned into something else entirely. She was back to being angry, but this time it had a desperate edge to it. "This is ridiculous," she announced while I was making coffee Sunday morning. "You're being completely unreasonable." "How so?" "You're holding one bad moment against me forever. Everyone says things they don't mean when they're upset." "What were you upset about exactly?" "Because you seemed pretty pleased with yourself when you said it." "I wasn't pleased." I was. I was trying to get your attention. By humiliating me in front of your family, I wasn't trying to humiliate you. I was trying to get you to react, to show some emotion, to prove that you actually care about our marriage. I turned to face her. So your plan was to publicly attack me until I got upset enough to prove I loved you? When she said it out loud like that, even she could hear how crazy it sounded. You're twisting my words. I'm repeating your words. Fine. Maybe it wasn't the best approach. But you've been so distant lately, so checked out. I felt invisible. Invisible how? I'm here every night. I pay my half of everything. I show up for family events, even the ones where your mother spends the whole time passive-aggressively commenting on my career choices. Being physically present isn't the same as being emotionally present. And being emotionally present means what exactly? Because if it means agreeing with everything you say and never having my own opinions about anything, then you're right. I haven't been doing that. She started to cry again, but this time it felt different. Less calculated, more frustrated. I don't know how to get through to you anymore, she said through tears. You could try talking to me like I'm a person instead of a problem to be solved. I do talk to you. You talk at me. You tell me what you need me to do, what you need me to fix, what you're unhappy about. When's the last time you asked me what I wanted, what I was thinking about, what would make me happy? She wiped her eyes. I ask you what you want all the time. Name one time in the last month. Another silence. This is impossible, she said finally. You've already decided on the villain here. I haven't decided anything. I'm just not pretending that what happened Thursday night was okay. And I'm not going to act like we can fix this with a weekend trip and some bacon. She looked at me with something that might have been real fear for the first time since this whole thing started. So what does that mean? It means I'm sleeping in the guest room until further notice. And it means you need to figure out what you actually want from this marriage, because whatever game you were playing Thursday night isn't going to work anymore. The house felt different after that conversation. Quieter, but not in a peaceful way. More like the quiet before a storm, when you know something bigger is coming but you're not sure exactly what or when. The breaking point came Tuesday evening. I was in the kitchen making dinner when she walked in with that look on her face, the one that meant she'd been building up to something all day. We need to talk, she announced. Okay. I kept stirring the pasta sauce. Talk. Not like this. Sit down. This is serious. I turned off the burner and faced her. What's serious? She took a deep breath like she was preparing for a performance. I can't keep living like this. The tension, the hostility, you treating me like I'm some kind of criminal. I'm not treating you like anything. I'm just not pretending everything's normal. Everything could be normal if you just let it be. But you're determined to punish me forever for one mistake. What mistake exactly? Thursday night. I already apologized for that. I leaned against the counter. No, you explain why you did it. You justified it. You made excuses for it. But you never actually apologized. Her face reddened. Fine. I'm sorry I embarrassed you at dinner. There. Are you happy now? What are you sorry for specifically? I just told you. You're sorry you embarrassed me. Are you sorry you said it? Or just sorry about where you said it? She stared at me for a moment, and I could see her internal debate playing out on her face. I'm sorry I said it the way I said it, she said finally. But not sorry you said it. I was telling the truth. Maybe not in the right way, at the right time, but the problems I mentioned are real. What problems? Our financial situation. The fact that you're not ambitious enough, not driven enough to really succeed. Now we were getting somewhere. Not ambitious enough for what? For anything. You're content to just coast along in your job, making enough to get by, never pushing for more. More what? More money, more status, more everything. Her voice was getting louder, more heated. Do you see how my sister's husband provides for her? Do you see what my friends' husbands achieve? Oh, I nodded slowly. So this is about keeping up with other people. It's about having goals. About wanting something better. Better than what? We pay our bills. We have a decent house, reliable cars, money and savings. What exactly isn't good enough? It's not about good enough. It's about excellence. About being successful. Define successful. She threw her hands up in exasperation. You know what successful means. No, I want to hear your definition. Successful means what exactly? It means being able to afford nice things. It means people respecting you. It means not having to worry about money. We don't worry about money. Because we live like we're poor. We could be doing so much better if you just try harder. I was quiet for a moment, processing this. How long have you felt this way? What? How long have you been disappointed in my income level? She hesitated. I'm not disappointed in your income. I'm disappointed in your lack of ambition. Same question. How long? I don't know. A while. Months? Years? Does it matter? It matters to me. Because if you've been unhappy with my career trajectory for years and you never said anything, that's one kind of problem. If this is something new, that's different. She looked uncomfortable. I mentioned it before. When, different times. You just never listened. Give me an example. When the promotion came up at your job last year, I suggested you should go for it. The promotion that would have required traveling 3 weeks out of every month. Yes. And when I said I didn't want to be away from home that much, you said you understood. I was being supportive, or you were being dishonest about how you actually felt. She was quiet for a moment, then seemed to make some internal decision. Fine. You want honesty? I'll give you honesty. Her whole demeanor changed. The tears, the pleading tone, the attempts at manipulation, all of it fell away. What was left was something colder, more calculating. I've been talking to people, she said. Friends, family, my divorce attorney friend. Getting advice about my options. Your options for what? For getting out of this marriage with something to show for it. There it was. Finally, the truth. And what did they tell you? They told me I needed to document your shortcomings. Build a case that you're not holding up your end of the marriage partnership. Partnership. Interesting word choice. That's what marriage is. A partnership. And if one partner isn't contributing equally, contributing what? Money? Because I pay exactly half of everything. Contributing ambition. Drive. The effort to build something better. Better for who? For both of us. No, I said quietly. Better for you. You want a different lifestyle, and you want me to finance it. That's not what this is about. Then what was Thursday night really about? Because this conversation is making it pretty clear. She was quiet for a long moment, and I could see her debating how much to reveal. Thursday was supposed to be documentation, she said finally. Documentation of what? Of you being unsupportive, unresponsive, emotionally unavailable, by provoking me into an angry reaction, by creating a situation where your true character would show. I actually had to admire the calculation behind it. And when I didn't react the way you expected, you made me look like the problem instead of you. Because you were the problem. You are the problem. I'm the problem. I'm trying to motivate you to be better. You're trying to manipulate me into becoming someone different so you can have the lifestyle you think you deserve. There's nothing wrong with wanting more. There's everything wrong with ambushing your husband at Thanksgiving dinner because he won't make enough money to satisfy your social aspirations. The mask slipped completely then. My social aspirations? My friends don't have to explain why their husbands drive 10-year-old cars. They don't have to make excuses for why they can't afford the restaurants everyone else goes to. Nobody asked you to make excuses. I never asked you to explain anything to anyone. You don't have to ask. It's obvious. And it's embarrassing. What's embarrassing is having a wife who thinks love is supposed to come with a salary requirement. She stared at me, breathing hard, and I could see her realizing that she'd just revealed way more than she'd intended to. That's not what I said. That's exactly what you said. You've been planning this divorce because I don't make enough money to fund the lifestyle you want. I haven't been planning anything. You just told me you've been talking to divorce attorneys and building documentation against me. She opened and closed her mouth several times, but no words came out. Here's what I think really happened, I said. You decided months ago that you wanted out, but you wanted it to be my fault so you could get more in the divorce. Thursday was supposed to be the beginning of your evidence collection, but when it backfired, you've been scrambling to find another approach. You're paranoid. Am I? Because everything you've done since Thursday makes perfect sense if that's your actual plan. She turned and walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back at me. You know what? You're right. I do want more. I want a husband who's excited about building a future instead of someone who's satisfied with mediocrity. If that makes me the villain in your story, fine. It doesn't make you a villain. It makes you someone who married the wrong person. She stared at me for a moment longer, then left the room. I heard her footsteps on the stairs, then the sound of the bedroom door slamming. I turned the burner back on and finished making dinner. For one, the next morning, I was having my coffee when my phone rang. The caller ID showed my sister-in-law's name, my wife's divorced sister from the Thanksgiving disaster. Hey, I answered, curious why she'd be calling me directly. I hope it's okay that I'm calling. I got your number from Mom's contact list. Sure. What's up? I wanted to apologize for Thursday night. That whole thing got way out of hand. You don't need to apologize. You weren't the one who started it. No, but I definitely made it worse with my comment about taking you if she didn't want you. I was just so shocked by what she said that I reacted without thinking. Honestly, your reaction was probably the most honest thing said at that table all night. There was a pause. Can I ask you something? Go ahead. Has she been preparing you for this? The divorce, I mean. That got my attention. What makes you think there's going to be a divorce? Because she's been talking about it for months. To Mom, to me, to pretty much everyone in the family. I thought you knew. I set down my coffee cup. She's been talking about divorce for months? She's been building a case, basically, telling everyone how unsupportive you are, how you don't make enough money, how you're holding her back from her potential. And what did everyone say to that? Most people just listened and tried to be supportive. But honestly, a lot of us were confused because from the outside, you guys seemed fine. You show up to everything. You're polite to everyone. You seem like a decent guy. But she was painting a different picture. Completely different. According to her version, you're this lazy, unambitious guy who refuses to better himself and drags her down with you. I was quiet, processing this information. The thing is, she continued, I went through a divorce 2 years ago, remember? So I know what it looks like when someone's building a narrative to justify leaving. And that's exactly what she's been doing. Did she ask you to back up her story? Not directly, but she kept bringing up my situation, comparing you to my ex. Except the comparisons never made sense because my ex was actually a deadbeat. He didn't work, didn't contribute, disappeared for days at a time. You're nothing like that. But she was trying to create similarities. Exactly. And Thursday night felt like her grand finale, you know? Like she was expecting you to have a meltdown that would prove all her points. Instead, I just agreed with her. She laughed. That was brilliant, by the way. The look on her face when you said fair assessment was priceless. She had no idea what to do with that response. Where is she now? Still at your parents'? She left Friday morning, but not before having a complete breakdown about how I'd ruined everything and how the family was taking your side against her. Are you taking my side? I'm taking the side of honesty. And honestly, if she's this unhappy with her marriage, she should just leave instead of trying to make you the villain. After we hung up, I sat there thinking about everything she'd told me. My wife had been planning this for months, building a case against me with her family, setting up Thursday night as some kind of proof of my inadequacy. But she'd miscalculated badly. Instead of getting the angry, defensive reaction she needed for her narrative, she'd gotten calm agreement. Instead of family support for her victim story, she'd gotten called out by her own sister. I was still thinking about this when my wife came downstairs. She looked like she hadn't slept much. We need to talk, she said. Okay. I've been thinking about what you said last night. About me marrying the wrong person. And maybe you're right. Maybe we just want different things out of life. I nodded. Maybe we do. So what do we do about it? I guess that depends on what you want to do about it. She sat down across from me at the kitchen table. I think we should consider a trial separation. A trial separation. Or an actual separation. What's the difference? A trial separation suggests we're trying to work things out. An actual separation suggests we're not. She was quiet for a moment. I don't know if we can work this out. Because I don't make enough money? Because we have fundamentally different values about success and ambition. And by success and ambition, you mean money. I mean wanting to build something. Wanting to grow. Wanting more than just getting by. And you think I don't want those things. Do you? I leaned back in my chair. I want to be happy. I want to be with someone who values what I contribute instead of focusing on what I don't. I want to not have to justify my career choices to my wife's family at holiday dinners. That's not what I was doing. That's exactly what you were doing. And according to your sister, you've been doing it for months. Her face went white. You talked to my sister? She called me this morning. Wanted to apologize for Thursday night. What did she tell you? Everything. About the months of conversations where you've been building your case against me. About how you've been telling everyone I'm lazy and unambitious. About how Thursday was supposed to be your proof. She stared at me in shock. She had no right to tell you that. She had every right. Especially since you've been using her divorce as a comparison point for ours. I wasn't using her divorce as anything. Really? Because she remembers it differently. She remembers you comparing me to her deadbeat ex-husband quite a bit. My wife's face crumpled. I was trying to get perspective on my situation. Your situation. Not our situation. Your situation. Yes, my situation. I'm the one who's unhappy. Then leave. The words hung in the air between us. What? If you're this unhappy, if I'm such a disappointment, if you've been planning this for months anyway, then just leave. Stop trying to make it my fault and just go. I can't just leave. There are legal considerations, financial implications. Ah, there it is. There what is? The real reason you've been building a case instead of just filing for divorce. You want me to be the bad guy so you can get a better settlement. That's not. I mean, I have to think about my future. Your future, not our future. She was crying now, but it wasn't the manipulative crying from before. This seemed more like genuine panic. I don't know what to do, she said through tears. I thought if I could just get you to see how much potential you're wasting. You thought you could change me into someone else. Someone who makes more money and cares about the same status symbols you care about. Is that so wrong? It's wrong to marry someone thinking you can fix them. It's wrong to plan a divorce while pretending to work on a marriage. And it's definitely wrong to ambush your husband at Thanksgiving dinner because your manipulation isn't working fast enough. She wiped her eyes. So what happens now? Now you decide what you actually want. If you want to try to work on this marriage, the real marriage, with the real me, not some fantasy version you've been trying to create, then we can talk about that. If you want out, then we'll handle that like adults. And if I choose to leave, then you leave. But you don't get to rewrite history to make yourself feel better about it. You don't get to pretend I'm the villain because I wouldn't become someone else for you. She stared at me for a long moment. You're really not going to fight for this, are you? Fight for what? Fight to convince you that I'm good enough? Fight to prove that my contribution to this marriage has value? I'm done fighting for someone who's already decided I'm not worth fighting for. That's not fair. No, what's not fair is spending months planning to leave someone while making them think you're trying to improve the relationship. She got up from the table and headed toward the stairs, then stopped and turned back. For what it's worth, she said quietly, I did love you. I wanted more. I know you did. But more what exactly? More money? More status? More of me being someone I'm not? She didn't answer. She just went upstairs, and I heard the bedroom door close behind her. I finished my coffee in the quiet kitchen, thinking about how sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is stop trying to be what they want you to be. 3 weeks later, she made her choice. I came home from work to find her in the living room with a folder of papers. I've filed, she said simply. Okay. She seemed surprised by my calm response. That's it. Just okay. What did you expect? Drama? Begging? You've been planning this for months. I thought you might try to change my mind. Why would I try to convince someone to stay who doesn't want to be here? The divorce process was surprisingly straightforward. No dramatic courtroom battles, no angry negotiations. She'd built her case around my supposed lack of ambition, but when it came to actual grounds for divorce, there wasn't much there. I hadn't been unfaithful, abusive, or financially irresponsible. I just wasn't rich enough for her taste. Her attempt to claim I'd been emotionally unavailable fell flat when her own sister testified that I'd always been respectful and present at family events. The Thanksgiving incident actually worked against her. Multiple witnesses confirmed that she'd been the one creating public drama, not me. She tried one last manipulation during the final settlement meeting. I gave you the best years of my life, she said, tears in her eyes. I supported your career when you were starting out. And I gave you my best years too, I replied. I showed up every day, paid my share, treated you with respect. The fact that you didn't value those things doesn't make them worthless. 6 months after the papers were signed, I was sitting in my kitchen now, having coffee and reading the news when my phone buzzed. A text from my former sister-in-law. Heard she's dating that real estate guy from her gym, the one with the BMW and the big house. Thought you should know she's already posting photos of expensive dinners on social media. I typed back, good for her. Hope she's happy. Are you happy? I looked around my quiet house. Clean dishes in the sink because I'd cooked myself a real dinner the night before. A book I actually wanted to read on the counter. No tension in the air, no waiting for the next criticism or manipulation. Yeah, I typed back. I really am. The truth was, I felt lighter than I had in years. I'd spent so much energy trying to measure up to standards I didn't even agree with, trying to be enough for someone who'd already decided I wasn't. I still worked the same job, made the same salary, drove the same car. But now those things felt like choices instead of failures. I wasn't rich, but I was content. I wasn't climbing any corporate ladders, but I wasn't stressed about impressing people who didn't matter. A few months later, I ran into her at the grocery store. She was with the real estate guy. Expensive suit, flashy watch, the whole package. She saw me first and tensed up, but I just nodded politely. "You look good," she said awkwardly. "Thanks. You too. This is David," she said, introducing her new boyfriend. "David, this is my ex-husband." David shook my hand with that overly firm grip some guys think proves something. "Sorry about what happened, man. But hey, her loss, right?" I almost laughed. Actually, I think it worked out exactly the way it was supposed to. My ex-wife's face showed a flicker of something. Maybe surprise, maybe disappointment that I wasn't bitter or broken. "Take care of yourself," I said to both of them, and meant it. Walking to my car, I realized I felt genuinely grateful for how everything had turned out. She'd done me a favor at that Thanksgiving dinner, even if she hadn't meant to. She'd shown me exactly who she was and what she valued, and freed me from trying to be someone I wasn't. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is someone deciding you're not good enough for them, because it means you get to find out that you're exactly good enough for yourself. And that's worth more than any BMW or expensive dinner could ever be.